Good afternoon, class. My name is Nathan Golshani. Let's take a poll. How many of you guys go to the grocery store and get either fruit or vegetables? Chances are that those fruit or vegetables that you guys ate were GMOs. Today I want to convince you on why genetically modified foods like fruits and vegetables should not be sold in stores for customers to eat and consume. I will persuade you on the various problems that are involved in GMOs, such as the FDA not requiring a GMO label on the product, the FDA not doing the testing themselves to see if the product is safe, and Roundup, a weed killer that is used on the fruits and vegetables. To start off, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, does not require a GMO label on the food product. The FDA will not require a GMO label on the product until the year of 2020, as said by Harmon. That means that for a majority of our lives, we could have been eating a GMO and the food companies didn't even have to label the product until this year. Robin Mather states that genetically modified foods are not labeled in the United States because the biotech industry has convinced the FDA that genetically modified crops are not substantially different from conventional varieties. This states that the only reason that they do not put the label is because they are not substantially different, but that is not true. Why does the food industry require companies to label foods that are pure organic as organic, but the genetically modified ones as normal foods? Some would view this as misleading the public and making people believe that organic foods are the problem. This does not make sense. Why would someone have to look for an organic label if they want the food to be organic, rather than just not getting a food that would have a GMO label on it? The FDA must inform the public on when a GMO is present in the food they are buying, not when the food is organic, or better yet, both. Another problem to this is that the public has tried to ask for GMO labels on food products, but the FDA has ignored it. The agency, the FDA, received nearly 6,500 comments on its proposed 1992 policy, and more than 80% demanded mandatory labeling of genetically modified foods. Despite that outpouring, the FDA did not respond to those comments and decided against labeling, as stated by Mather. The public has tried providing their take on the food labeling controversy for a while now, but the FDA has ignored a majority of what the public has said. Another problem with GMOs is that the FDA does not do any of the testing for human or animal safety. Mather says, the FDA, however, does no independent testing for human or animal safety and relies strictly on the research conducted by the manufacturers of the products. The main genetically modified producer, Monsanto, makes it nearly impossible for independent scientists to attain genetically modified seeds to study. This shows us that the FDA does not do the testing to see if the GMO is safe and whether or not it is safe to sell it in stores. In addition, if a scientist or separate company would want to test the seeds, they would not be able to because the seeds are very difficult to obtain and test. The FDA, the people who regulate whether something is safe to eat or not, does not even do the testing to see if the GMO is safe. They rely solely on what the manufacturer says to verify that it is safe. Finally, Roundup, one of Monsanto's weed killers, is spreading to numerous other companies. Mather said, since Roundup patent expired in 2000, a number of companies have begun to manufacture products using Roundup's active ingredient, glyphosate. Glyphosate is the most widely used pesticide in the U.S. and is in a majority of GMOs to keep the plant resistant to the weed killer, as said by Mather. Mather also brought up how Roundup causes birth defects and stated, in a 2011 report called Roundup and Birth Defects, is the public being kept in the dark? 8 international scientists cited study after study linking glyphosate to birth defects in birds and amphibians, as well as to cancer, endocrine disruption, damage to DNA, and reproductive and developmental damage in mammals, even at very low doses. Moreover, the report said Monsanto, the rest of the herbicide industry, had known since the 1980s that glyphosate causes malformations in animals, and that the EU governments ignored these studies. Here in the United States, the EPA continues to assert that Roundup is safe. This shows that even though Monsanto, the biggest GMO producer, knew that the weed killer Roundup caused birth defects since the 1980s and chose to keep the public in the dark. Another problem with Roundup is the runoff that it produces and where it goes. In one study, the recommended application of Roundup sold to homeowners and gardeners killed up to 86% of frogs in one day, according to the University of Pittsburgh assistant professor Rick Aurelia. The pesticide that these companies have been spraying are killing more than just the weeds, and it needs to be stopped. Overall, it may be said that GMOs are not safe to consume and should not be sold in stores unless the limitations and concerns brought up are addressed. The FDA needs to require GMO labels on the food. The FDA should do their own testing to see if the food is safe, as well as the manufacturer. Finally, Roundup usage should try to be reduced and should not be used at all. Some may say that GMOs are safe to consume, but the truth is that they are not, and the business of producing a GMO is flawed and needs to be corrected. Thank you for your time.